Alrighty, welcome everyone to the CyberSec show. Today I'm talking with John Hammond, which is fantastic. Welcome, John, to the live stream.
Hey, thanks so much for having me. I'm super excited to be hanging out with everyone here, and looking forward to it.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it should be a fun little one to go through. I've got a couple of questions here to go through, and then at the end we'll answer a couple of questions from the chat. So I'll just read them out as they come through, and yeah, we'll go from there. So we'll start off with how's your morning going so far? I know it's pretty early there. It's like 8 o'clock or maybe 9 o'clock, depending on where you are. But
yeah. No. Thanks for asking it. It's a Sunday over here. It is early. Trying to pry out of bed at like 7:30 in the morning, but it was good. It was get to take the dogs out, get the morning started early. So I'm doing okay. Try to get some caffeine in the morning.
Hell yeah! What are you drinking?
So I have a problem in that I really enjoy like Monster energy drink, which is probably awful for me. But I've been better about getting the less sugar, healthier, if there even is such a thing, healthier version of it.
You do you. So, yeah, I mean, everyone's got their poison, right? But I prefer a coffee in the morning myself, but I have had the occasion where those has been the ones that hit the spot for me.
Excellent.
Let's go through a couple of these questions here. Just tell us a little bit about yourself, like how you've gotten started in cybersecurity, what you've sort of learnt so far, and just like a general introduction to yourself.
Sweet. Well, hey, thanks so much for asking. Yeah. Hello, right?
Yeah.
my name's John Hammond. It's funny to do like the elevator pitch, but
Yeah.
no.
Let me get the elevator music going one second.
So I consider myself, hopefully that's kind of received well to the world, a cybersecurity content creator, cybersecurity researcher, just a fellow nerd, just a fellow geek member of the community. For my day job, I work at an organization called Huntress Labs, and they do managed threat detection. So it's like, hey, trying to look for hackers, trying to look for threat actors and adversaries, and then try to get them out. More of a defense, more of a, hey, blue teamy sort of thing, which is interesting because a lot of the content and the stuff that I try to bring to the world is also more red teamy or penetration testing, focus on bug bounty, vulnerability assessment sort of thing. Because normally when you're playing Capture the Flag, right, or you're going through some cyber range online practice war games and stuff like that, they lean you towards a little bit more of that red team, cool, flashy Hollywood hacking stuff. But it's a lot of fun. I really enjoy it. Happy to tell, hey, whatever the story is of coming to that. But that's basically it. I like to play and participate in Capture the Flag when I can. I like to host a lot of those competitions and events and games just like that. And then I try to, still get the job done and pay the bills, right?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, it's interesting that I mean, a lot of the content that does come out of on YouTube anyway is more focused towards the red team, and I think it's mainly because it's I think personally more fun and easier to digest than sort of like, let's go through some logs on Splunk today and see how, I mean, it's a job, and that's a huge part of those sort of jobs, but it's definitely not one of the most interesting things to talk about anyway. So yeah, there is definitely that as well. I feel you there. So I guess what sort of, this is a question I ask every single interview, but what was the moment for you where you thought this is exactly what you want to do? Like you just clicked and you're like, damn, this is sick. I want to get into cybersecurity.
Okay.
It's a tough one because it's usually like a few different things.
Yeah, it's weird to like try and hone in on it, like exactly that moment. And it's so. Can I give a little bit of a backstory or some stuff to kind of speed it up? So, when I was a kiddo, right, a young lad, a whippersnapper, trying to find my way in like middle school and high school and all, every kid kind of says, oh, I want to make video games, or I want to be a hacker. And I had stumbled across like, hey, looking on things on the internet and trying to Google around or find YouTube videos on how to do that. a lot of it said like, well, hey, if you want to be a hacker or make video games, you kind of have to know how to program, right? So in that day and age, I thought, okay, Python sounds like it's a cool thing. That was recommended in Eric S. Raymond. I don't know if folks are familiar with that name, but if you Google Eric S. Raymond, he literally has a blog post titled "How to Become a Hacker." I don't know. That's where things kind of got the ball rolling. I tried to pick up Linux, tried to understand more of it, and when I got into my undergrad, like for college, university, for schooling, I went to one of the United States like military academies. It was the Coast Guard Academy, and they think it's cool, sweet. You can make software, you can write code and stuff, but is it battle ready? You know, is it tested? Is it secure? Is it stable? Is it sturdy? So they care much more about the vulnerabilities and the exploits and the stuff that could come against it. And I never seen that. I didn't know what that whole world was. But they had hosted, or they were part of a competition, which I didn't know at the time was a capture the flag.
Right. Okay.
That had like an online qualifiers or a couple challenges to play before the live in-person physical event, and that was fun. It was interesting because it was cool, just like, hey, trying to solve some puzzles, trying to solve some tasks, and apparently did okay enough that I was able to go participate in the physical and in-person one. But when you're like a freshman at the military academies, right, they make you do weird, silly things. Like you always have to like stand up straight. You always have to walk in like the very middle, the center of the hallway.
The induction.
Right, exactly that. When you go downstairs, you have to stay exactly at the edge of the wall and like have sharp turns as you move down the stairwell.
Okay.
And it's really funny and interesting. I remember waking up super duper early because we were about to drive or fly or whatever to go to the event. And I don't know, something in that moment I was like, oh, this is super cool. Like this feels like sort of pseudo, like hardcore intense. Like let's go do cybersecurity. Let's go understand vulnerabilities and exploits and hack and pen test and do better defense. Something about squaring down the hallway of the stairs.
Yeah.
That wasn't even on keyboard. It was just like hey, I know I'm about to go do something that I really love and I really enjoy because I've been playing with it. I was like, maybe this is what I can do forever. Maybe this is something that I can keep investing myself in.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that definitely sounds like a fun, I guess, introduction into what it is. But yeah, it's I mean, that's pretty fun. The induction stuff is pretty fun. Oh man, that would have been gold to see. Actually, I would have loved to be a fly on the wall there, to be honest. Okay, on to the next question. What is your favorite piece of educational material that you've learnt from? Like, which one was the one, I guess, that stood out the most for you as something that you really remember now, and you're like, damn, that was a good piece of content. And if that's like something at uni or a certification, I know you've collected quite a few, and or just like a random blog post that you read once that really stood out as the one piece of something that you found educational but also really enjoyable to help with both motivation and learning.
That's a super interesting one because, again, hey, kind of a whole lot of examples. It's interesting to narrow down on one. I'm totally going to be selfish and go for like a couple.
Yeah. There's not more than one. You could say, up to 5, I guess. Yeah.
Well, maybe this is a bad or a boring answer, but I hope it resonates for some others if they're just getting started or if they're just interested in learning more about this whole cybersecurity scene. Some of the early stuff on that I thought, hey, this is the right way to practice. This is the good way to learn from. Is some of the like over the wire war games. The wire is some learning resource.
Like Bandit.
Yeah, Bandit, super kind of, hey, Bandit's a good way to get your foot in the door. They have a couple other games like Leviathan and Behemoth and like, Vortex or some, tons of them that are really interesting. I remember going through them, again, kind of in that, hey, younger age at university, and Behemoth or Leviathan, one of them, I think it was Behemoth, that forces you into a buffer overflow. It forces you into a stack-based buffer overflow, kind of more in the perspective of like, hey, you're just at a command line. All you have is like GDB as a debugger, and try and figure this thing out.
Yeah.
And it was weird and interesting because it's like, all right, well, Harry, you're sort of thrown into the wolves if you've never seen this before. Can you Google around? Can you explore more as to what this really means for binary exploitation and that sort of idea? And it's the first time you've ever seen a buffer overflow. You're like, I have no idea what this is. Like, I don't understand what I'm looking at. I remember we were like on the bus to some trip or some event that we were going to, and it wasn't even for cybersecurity. I was in the marching band, right? Which is, it sounds as nerdy as it is.
What were you playing? Or singing?
I played
or...
trumpet. Yeah, I played
right.
trumpet back in the day.
Cool.
Maybe that's a mark on my personality. I don't even know.
No, I used to do the same thing. It wasn't quite a marching band, but it was similar concept, but not quite marching band.
Cool.
But I played the clarinet, and that was kind
Awesome.
of fun. But yeah, anyway, sorry. Continue. I digress. Continue.
But it's so fun. Hey, creative people and kind of a music aspect to it. So on the bus to a marching band performance, I was nerding out on my laptop, and I remember like, oh, I figured it out. I understand this buffer overflow thing. And again, that's another weird thing. Hey, in a moment of your life where I'll probably never forget that, because I remember like looking around with other people with me. I'm like, I did it. And I have no idea what the heck I'm doing.
That's awesome. Oh man, I think I reckon the one I was thinking about this last time, and last time I said the Bandit War Games was my moment where I was like, damn, I'm hacking. I'm in
Awesome.
here. Like, yeah, I was loving
Cool.
it, but I'm revising my answer now. I think the one moment that really stood out, there was actually, I think it was Deloitte or PwC. They had like a CTF competition thing,
Nice.
which was really fun. I did it with a friend of mine who I think was working there at the time or was trying to get a job or something like that. And there was this SQL injection piece which I had no idea what I was doing. And
Yeah.
I was looking at that and I was like, I just can't figure it out. What is going on here? And teamwork prevailed. He probably carried, to be honest, but I'm going to claim it. And yeah, I had a really good time doing that, and I learnt a lot just from messing about, really. I mean, I wasn't in it to win it or anything. I'm not a very competitive person in that sort of regard, but I did have a lot of fun, and I think it's probably one of the moments I'll remember forever type thing, as one of those moments where I really figured something out and had fun with it, which is, I mean, that's kind of what CTFs are good for as well, which is a perfect segue for me onto what do you think are your favorite CTFs that you've ever done? And
Ooh.
I would say like ranging from beginner to all the way to like extreme level.
Okay. Huh. Now, so I'll be like the first to admit I am by no means some like crazy elite hardcore CTF player. There are incredible
I've
people.
seen you play a few
certainly much better than
CTFs
me.
before. You're not bad. Yeah, pretty good.
I have
Yeah.
and I'm in the same mentality as you, and that like, hey, I just like to learn, I just like to tinker, I like to play, and that's something that I enjoy. So even the CTFs that are like, hey, here's some fundamental, quick and comfortable challenges to sort of start the trajectory where you feel like, all right, I'm solving stuff, I'm having a good time, and then it slowly brings you into more complicated or more in-depth or more complex challenges. Those are really fun, and I really enjoy those. There was one event that, again, I got to play in person with the team, and it was an interesting take on a capture the flag, because it was like a social engineering capture the flag, in that, hey, there was a group of the moderators and the administrators. Yeah, it's super interesting. They had the facilitators kind of act and play roles, and doing this in person was kind of much easier than online, right? But you would call them, and you would try to lie through the phone call and deceive them and trick them to get some new information. And you would try and set up like watering hole attacks, like or a credential harvesting website, faking the Facebook domain to look like, hey, can I extract your credentials if I send you a phishing email to get you to type in your password?
Yeah, right. That's
super
so cool.
Fun. And they eventually, I think, even wanted, after talking to the orchestrator and the game designers at the end, there's like, yeah, man, that wasn't even like all that we wanted to do. We had a whole nother building set up on campus. It was at a university at the time. There was like, we were wanting you to go in and like lie to the front desk to try to see if you could get into some specific room and you could find some files in like the file cabinet. I was like, wow, this would have been so much cool. This would have been so much fun.
Is fun. Yeah, that's so cool.
And it takes it off of the keyboard, which has some value to it, and it's fun in that regard, but also is still on the keyboard because look, how quickly can I spin up a, again, phishing email or sort of credential harvesting site, or if I'm making sock puppet accounts, like, hey, I've staged a fake person on LinkedIn, will you network with me? Can I send you some messages to get some info? And
how long was that CTF for? Like, how long did it go for?
So that would have been, because it was in person, it was still a 2-day event. It was still kind of a weekend game, but you would have the time off at the end of the evening. So maybe 8 hours during the day in the event, go to sleep, another 8 hours a day in the event. So
wow, that's so cool.
Yeah.
That's so probably I've never heard of a CTF like that before. I've never come across it. Damn, that's awesome. It takes
a classic capture the flag idea, but hey, if any game designers or folks in the audience are listening in on a cool idea, that might be a ton of fun.
Yeah, that's the one that's going to get a lot of interest, I reckon. What do you reckon like a CTF coming up is that you're looking forward to, if there's any upcoming CTF? So I'll go first while you have a think. The Down Under CTF later this year. It's pretty much the only CTF I participate in these days. I have a look at some of the stuff that comes up on TryHackMe, which is of course an awesome website, tryhackme.com. I like a lot of the cryptography / MISC stuff. I find them to be fun because I get into that like Da Vinci Code type of frame of mind where I'm doing something completely different to what I normally do. But I really like those sort of puzzle type CTFs. But social engineering one would be freaking awesome. That would be so cool. So if there's any of those coming up, let me know in the chat or the comments. Yeah, absolutely keen to hear. But yeah, what's an upcoming CTF that you're looking forward to getting into?
Ooh. So I guess I'll be kind of across the board, if that's all right. The UMD CTF is one that I'm looking forward to, and it's actually just coming up this weekend. I again, kind of close friends and familiar with some of the crew over there, some of the team that helped put that on, and I'm looking forward to that. They don't have a CTF time link up and available just yet, but I know it's on the way. And I think I tried to spread the word and share it out on my Twitter, so if folks have an interest in that. But that one is, again, interesting and has a little bit more reverse engineering, a little bit more binary, a little bit more like radio frequency. There's even an RF category, which would be kind of interesting and fun, some hardware stuff in there. That was one.
Yep.
I'm also looking forward to Down Under CTF. I really like what those guys do. They're always kind of fun and interesting.
They're always good, yeah. Not so much the OSINT. I kind of like OSINT sometimes, but I absolutely hate the OSINT ones on because I suck at it so bad. Really, it's so frustrating, and it really gets to me. So usually I like the OSINT stuff, but the OSINT stuff on Down Under I've never been good at. They dupe me every time. But yeah, yeah. I know you're not a massive fan of OSINT. In general, as such. From the memes, anyway.
Yeah, it's just an open like internet scavenger hunt. That's so tough in my mind. It's hard to get that right. You know, can it be guessy? Maybe, I don't know. It's just a whole open world, and it's a tough problem to solve.
That's a nice way to put it. That's funny as. All right. Next question was, in your geographical area, what have you seen the most growth in, I guess, IT as a whole, but more specifically, cybersecurity?
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, I got some interesting ones in here.
Yeah, there's a ton of good questions. So, I think, and this is something that I feel like I'm like super duper falling behind on, is that I've seen a whole lot of growth in people getting into more like DevOps stuff. More like, hey, the cloud infrastructure, more like, hey, staging a whole lot of stuff on AWS or Google Cloud Platform, GCP, even when folks are getting into like, oh, what are we rolling out with Kubernetes or something? And that's not to, because sometimes you say that and sometimes it feels very like much like a buzzword or you kind of trivialize it. But no, people legitimately, you see it on Hack the Box, or you see it in Try Hack Me. You see it on a lot of people that are putting out new good work and great tooling. Callers pull up with this whole new Purple Panda thing. It's like people are getting super good at all this cloud and DevOps stuff, and I feel like, man, I'm not in that scene yet, and I want to be, and I should be. I have a strange fear, in all reality, that like the cybersecurity industry, because we keep getting better and better, and like I had this conversation with IPSec just a bit ago that's like, hey, GTF Opens, that website, that great resource, didn't used to exist anymore. It didn't exist 3 or 4 years ago. Hacktricks, some of the other great resources didn't exist some time ago. And because we've come that far so quickly, what is it going to look like in 2 or 3 years from now when we have so many more incredible things coming out for Azure? I see in the chat for GCP, for AWS, when they become more and more what we see for actual infrastructure in cybersecurity.
True. Yeah, I think like Socrates said, Azure is a boom at the moment as far as IT goes. There's a lot going on there, especially in the government space over here. It's pretty much every government runs some form of Azure or some part of the 365 suite, if not the entire thing. But I think in specifically like cybersecurity, I think DevSecOps is definitely one of the ones that I've seen growing. But also AppSec is it seems to be the one that when I talk with recruiters and say, hey, just keeping tabs on basically what's going on in the industry. AppSec they're always like, oh, do you know anyone getting into AppSec? And I'm like, well, yeah, but specific with experience, no. So it's kind of, it's like, because they want these like golden unicorns of people with 5 years AppSec experience. I'm like, they don't exist, dude. We're in Australia. There's hardly anyone here and everyone's underwater at the moment. So it's like, what can I yeah, it's impossible. So it's, AppSec, DevSecOps, and I guess 365 as an entirety is the massive booms here with more and more people moving to the cloud still. A lot of people have already done it, but we're a little bit behind here where there's still a lot of on-prem infrastructure out there, which is, it's interesting to say the least.
Can I ask, and I'm super interested in learning just as well. When folks are rolling with Azure, is that like, hey, also Azure Active Directory or kind of putting more of that at play?
I think it's a bit of both. I'd say it's mostly with Active Directory on the side, probably Intune if they're going with Active Directory, and on the other side there is some places are starting to build out storage like blobs and all of that good stuff, but the price point isn't quite there yet here. AWS is still a lot cheaper to run.
Gotcha.
So it's that's the main factor is money for most people. So unless they have like a full 365 environment already, they're not really keen to run away from AWS and their full control, whereas the Microsoft system is a bit more controlled, I guess, by Microsoft. So it's it depends on the organization as well, like what they want and what they have and what they can afford. It sort of comes down to that, I guess, as the main point is money. But
Gotcha.
Yeah. On to probably the second last question. I've got another question at the end. If you had to give one piece of advice for newcomers into the industry, what would that advice be?
Oh, goodness, this is like the hardest question there is.
If it's like a certification maybe, or to gain experience in something, or whatever it is.
A lot of different perspectives too, because I've said this before, but I think it shines as kind of the most important one is show your work Like whenever you're practicing with something, whenever you are hey, experimenting with something, either that you, if you're already in a job and you're seeing something cool at work, or if you're just trying to prepare, or you're just trying to study, or you're just exploring and tinkering stuff in a training pipeline, or if you're doing some online of those practice war games, right? Write a blog post or share an article. It could be something on Medium. It could be a GitHub link. It can be something that you just thread out on Twitter or LinkedIn, or if you wanted to make a video, hey, get the whole YouTube channel started. I think that those are great things to not only help it refine in your mind, but then you have this tangible thing that you can point at and show people, like, hey, this is the record of me doing the stuff that I'm passionate about, the stuff that I love and I'm learning and getting better at. And then it's a resource for someone else just as well. When they're in the exact same boat, asking the same questions, running into the same walls, having the same sort of, hey, epiphanies and learning points. I think that that's a really valuable thing. And maybe I'm biased. That's obviously a selfish answer because, hey, I have a stupid YouTube channel where I do exactly that.
Well,
but it's
yeah.
something...
Me too.
It helps with them. Yeah.
It helps
with, exactly. So many opportunities, so many potential, hey, employment things as you're chatting with, again, recruiters or networking. It opens so many doors for you that you wouldn't have if you didn't share, if you didn't
100%.
show your work. And I'm a big proponent of that.
Yeah, I agree with that. But on that point where you're saying, like, logging the different things that you're doing. I've found that one thing that recruiters especially seem to be interested in, as well as hiring managers, actually probably hiring managers more than recruiters, because recruiters are a bit touchy sometimes. When you show a hiring manager your own home lab setup, that seems to really brighten up the conversation. From what I've seen anyway, where they just go, wow, this guy is pretty into it. Like this person really loves what they're doing enough to have built this, whatever the home lab is, thing, which I guess is a good segue onto home labs versus bug bounties. If you had to choose one to learn something, and I know bug bounties are very specific on what you will learn in comparison to a home lab. They're two totally different beasts, but if you had to compare the two as a learning experience, which one would you choose? And this isn't my last question. I have another one after this, but it was just something random I thought of.
So in full transparency, yeah, I am not much of a bug bounty hunter myself, truthfully, and I'll be the first to say that I don't have any bugs that I've claimed or hung out with, hey, Integrity, Bug Crowd, HackerOne, et cetera. I haven't, truthfully. I'd like to maybe someday, but it just hasn't been able to something that I've been able to enter the world with yet. With that said, it is a giant, somewhat overwhelming open world of, hey, maybe there's a program, maybe there's not, that might be vulnerable, maybe somehow, if you could find it, I don't know. And that's scary because you just don't know. I think in the sake of a home lab, I have a beefed up machine that can run way too many virtual machines all at the same time, which is a lot of fun to play with. But that also is a little bit scary in that, hey, I don't exactly know what to build or what to play with or what to set up. But you sort of get a reverse perspective, and that you're understanding how to create the vulnerable environment and then maybe take advantage of it, rather than just kind of knocking at the door trying to see if it's vulnerable without ever knowing. I have always kind of advocated, hey, I like to try and build up the thing that you want to understand better, try and create it on your own, try and stand up that Jenkins server or something silly, and then see how it works inside and out. When you do that with the home lab, you go through that process, and there are going to be tons and tons of resources and articles and things that you might be able to read up on and get smarter on that help guide you through that process for your learning.
Yeah.
You might not have if you're guessing at the bug bounty.
Yeah,
so
I agree. Yeah, I think for me, the reason I haven't gotten into bug bounties, and I've said this too many times, is I just don't have the time, I guess, to to sit down for hours and hours and look for something that I don't know exists. For me, that's it's not a useful use of my time. But that's not to discount from that. It can be a great learning experience and a potential way to make money if that's what you're into. But I mean, I think I'm a little bit more old school in the whole, build a machine from the scratch up and, create all the virtual NICs and create a virtual vulnerable machine and then something to attack it with and put a firewall in between to log all the everything that's going on and just sort of see. I really like that hands-on approach of you've built the system, you know what the vulnerabilities are, but even if you have some friends around from like a study group or something, you say, hey, have at it. Go nuts, and you can. I mean, if you had it on a Raspberry Pi, you could have like a little display that says, attack, whatever. You could go really nuts with it if you really want, and it could be super cool, and probably a really good idea for a YouTube video if anyone is keen on doing that sort of tech. That'd be kind of cool. But yeah, I mean, that's without going too far down the rabbit hole there. I think for me, Home Labs is the winner on ways to learn different things, because you're not just learning how to attack a system and find vulnerabilities, you're also learning how to build all of those systems to begin with, which is, I mean, honestly, I think it's a lot of the job day to day, which is a perfect segue to what is a typical day in the life of working at Huntress.
Ooh,
so wake up, have a coffee, start your day. Or a mother, or monster, or whatever it is.
It varies. It's a little all over the place. So my role is a security researcher in the threat operations department. But that is very technical and is, hey, on the keyboard doing some fun stuff, whether it's helping other analysts kind of explore malware, reverse engineer something to determine what all is bad and how can we help the partner or the individual that we're trying to save and rescue and protect there. But it's also prototyping new functionality or features or maybe things that we know we want to add to the product, the security product and the mechanism that we have to begin with. That has a lot of flexibility, which is nice. Maybe I spend a couple hours that day or another throughout the week to be able to work on projects like that. Alongside it, maybe this is just something kind of for the stuff that I do, right? Because I have the YouTube channel, because I have the public presence or whatever you want to call it. Hey, I'll get to go jump in some other webinars or podcasts or do some training or prepare a presentation that we know we're going to be giving at some event or I'll have to be on stage sometime soon. So it's an interesting thing between like, hey, technical threat operations work and running alongside it some marketing to-dos or some errands with PR or chatting with reporters and helping out with news and media. It's a weird dichotomy, but it's much more fun and enjoyable when I'm on keyboard doing the technical stuff.
Hell yeah, that's cool as. That's a nice mix of a bit of everything, really. I mean, that's fun as. That's awesome. Yeah. Hell yeah, I love that. Do you work a lot remotely, or do you sort of go into an office more often than that?
Thankfully, again, extremely fortunate where I'm at, but it is fully remote. So before, the world fell apart and after, we'll always be kind of kicking it remotely. But I'm super excited. We do have some folks now for our own 24/7 support and threat operations where we'll try to follow the sun. So we have analysts and folks from all over. Sure, I'm in the United States, but we've also now got some folks in the United Kingdom and some in Australia. So if you want to come, hey, party with us. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, that sounds cool, man. That's a sick job. I've run out of questions here, so if anyone in the chat has any questions that they'd like to ask, I can see a few people saying the audio is a bit strange, like it's clipping. I did try to fix that up. Hopefully that fixed it. I don't know. It could be my internet because it is literally like 2 feet deep outside of water. It's properly flooding here, so I've got to pump around the corner getting water out. But I'll have a quick look. Let's have a look for some
Do you
questions.
hear the audio cripply on your side?
I do get it is a little bit like I think it's just the internet, to be honest.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. I'm pretty sure it's just the internet being bad here. All right. Question is from John Z. He says, "Hey John, CyberSec want to know if you heard called hermetic wiper attack." I don't know what that
The
means.
Hermetic Wiper, yes.
What's that? I don't know.
The Hermetic Wiper is some malware strain that was kind of uncovered in Ukraine, considering some of the conflict and
Ah,
shenanigans over there. Obviously, kind of a more spicy topic.
a little bit. Yeah.
It's interesting. You see some of the other discussions and conversations from other security researchers, and I think there is a lot of focus on the wiper malware strain, but there are a lot of other detection opportunities.
Right.
There were a whole lot of other things between, there might have been a web shell present on a victim machine, or if there were some PowerShell commands to kind of stage that attack. The wiper is, again, fascinating and interesting and something that we can be doing our analysis and due diligence on, but there's even more to it. The Hermetic Wiper is an interesting story to follow, for sure.
Okay. I'm definitely gonna have to look this one up after this live stream. We got another question here from Xkratos says, "What's your opinions in what a vulnerability management program should have?" That's an interesting one.
Would you mind reading that one more time? What was?
Yep. What's your opinions in what a vulnerability management program should have? So I guess what should it have in the program for I mean, that's a pretty deep question. Do you mean like? I think I need a little bit more info on that question actually to be able to give it a half decent answer at least. I'll go to the next question. It's from Zoltan. The question is, are you going to be making any more tools like PwnCat with Caleb?
Ooh,
that's an
yeah. Thank you for asking. If anyone isn't familiar, my very close friend and now coworker, it's awesome to be hanging with him at work. Caleb, he is a genius. He's a mastermind. He is a fantastic architect for like writing software, like 1,000 times better than me. And some of our previous projects have been Katana, which was like a capture the flag automation tool, and then PwnCat, which was meant to be, hey, leveling up your reverse shell listener and trying to stage a lot of red teaming techniques on Linux and Windows endpoints. For the moment, we're kind of playing with stuff that we either do at work together, because now we're hanging at Huntress, or a lot of the capture the flag and hosting and events that we put on. I don't know if folks are familiar with the NomCon CTF or the HacktivityCon CTF or other things that we help host in the past. We want to get better at that, and we want to scale that and make it grow. There are a lot of avenues that we're working and experimenting in with that, but I don't think there's strictly a project that would help be in the same lines as PwnCat and Katana just yet.
Okay. Good answer. Yeah. I think, it'll probably take a fair bit of development to get those sort of things rolling smoothly, at least. Yeah.
They're fun projects, but
yeah. How many projects have you got going at the moment? Just curious.
It's kind of what you consider like a project, right? Is it something that you want to pour and invest time in, or is it like an obligation? It's like, man, I just have to get this done.
Yeah, fair enough. There's a question from way up in the chat from Jad. The question is, for someone new in cybersecurity, what would you recommend diving into first? I assume you mean a cybersecurity role, or do you mean certifications or education? I'll answer the first part of that with education and I guess certifications. While I think certifications are great to have and all the rest of it, I would be probably chasing education rather than certifications. Only because it's more I think anyway, it's more the experience of what you've learnt that I feel is more important. Like, yes, of course, having the certificate to say that you achieved that learning milestone is great, but I think personally being able to find education out there, and there's lots of it. There's lots on YouTube, there's lots on Medium, LinkedIn. I mean, there's free certifications on LinkedIn that are pretty fun and interesting to get into. As far as jobs go, I reckon entry level, to be honest, I think there's been a lot of GRC roles, from what I've seen over here anyway, for entry level, which I think is interesting because typically it's quite like legal heavy, but I think that has kind of changed into them having like a full-time auditor and then like a GRC officer who presents whatever the findings are from a red team into the risk committee. So it's I think GRC is a pretty cool place to start if you're not able to get into like SOC analyst or something else. You can also do like stepping stones, and by no means is like a network engineer or sysadmin, I would say, lower as a position. I just mean if you want to get into cybersecurity, I think, you know, doing sysadmin work is kind of cool, and also doing things like network engineering. That's exactly how I got into cybersecurity. I'm not saying it's the right way to do it or the best way or anything. It's just it's what I did. But it's an option, which is kind of cool. What do you think, John? That was a very long-winded answer, but
no. I'm glad you took it. Hey, I'm super long-winded and verbose.
Yeah. What do you reckon about entry level? I guess jobs. We'll go with jobs more than education.
I side with you in that notion of like, hey, take the stuff that, for one thing, that you're interested in, and even if you feel like, oh, I want to be a pen tester or I want to be something cool, flashy, some of those sysadmin jobs, IT help desk jobs, etc., are still incredible and fantastic and help with your learning so much
Absolutely.
more. I am straight up jealous of the folks that have that background and that exposure, because I'll be honest, I don't. And I'm not as sharp on those things that like make for a functional production environment, which I feel like really, really cripples me. So I would even recommend for folks that want to be in that party and playing in that pool, take some time for some of those roles. If you are, again, looking for those entry level jobs, or if you feel like you're just kind of struggling and trying to find a job, I genuinely recommend to folks shotgun like applications.
Spray and pray type thing.
Yeah,
I mean, it is a numbers game, really.
Yeah, I've said to folks, and maybe it's selfish, but like, try to gauge where you are valued in the marketplace and in the industry. So sell yourself, do as many things as you can, and if someone says, hey, I'd like to have that for whatever price, and if someone says, hey, I'd like to have that for an even higher price, so that you can get paid and compensated more and you find the value in the work that you're doing, do that. Find where that is so that you can kind of get a baseline and get a sense of like, okay, I can bring this to the table, and I know that is at this price point, right? So you're compensated the way that you feel you should be, and that's a great thing. So be, in my mind, aggressive with that. I tend to recommend that to folks.
For sure. I think, that's a good answer for that one. I have a couple more questions here. I'm going to stop answering questions here shortly. So there's a couple more. I'm just going to start picking and choosing the ones I like now. So there is one from Death Voice. It says, are there any particular resources, for example, GitHubs, that you use frequently that you would like to shout out?
Ooh, tons of them. New stuff. Depends on the kind of work that you're working on and what you're doing. For the stuff that I tend to use on a day-to-day basis, at work, there's a really cool new repo that I've been tracking, was Hardening Kitty. It's literally like resources to try and harden and secure and bolster the mechanisms on like a Windows endpoint, like hosts, and again, you might see it in an environment.
Cool.
For the sake of bettering security and some of the good stuff there. I also like to explore a whole lot of STIGs, the Security Technical Implementation Guides. I also really like to explore the Center for Information Security. I like the stuff that they put out. Those aren't strictly GitHubs, but the hardening script one was. I'm trying to think of more, because I was so excited, like, oh yeah, there are a lot, and now I'm totally blanking.
That happens. While you're thinking, I honestly can't think of any. I've been shut in my own little shell for the last month or two, probably this entire year actually, so almost 3 months. And yeah, or not 3 months, 2 months, but yeah. Yeah, no, I haven't really looked at anything new recently, to be honest. I've just been doing day-to-day grind, basically. So I haven't really had a look at anything new. I saw a GitHub the other day, which was that purple
Purple Panda.
Purple Panda, yeah. Had a mind blank
Yeah.
there for a second, which was interesting, and pretty extreme. But yeah, I mean, I didn't really look into it a lot. I had a quick read over. I was like, oh wow, that's that's interesting. But yeah, I really haven't dived into it or tried looking at anything further. Have you thought of any other GitHubs at all?
Again, if I know I answered that sort of in the more blue teaming defense perspective, if you are more interested in the adversarial offensive red team stuff, needless to say, LOL bins, GTFO bins, any of those resources that showcase living off the land techniques, a lot of the stuff that comes out from Spectre Ops, any of their new blog posts and the shenanigans that they're up to is fantastic and incredible. They're a lot of just incredible resources out there out and about. The GitHub awesome lists, if you haven't seen those practically have your answers for literally everything. So
yeah, they are actually awesome. Legitimately awesome. Definitely check those ones out. Just type in, I think it's like awesome pen test is one. If you have a look at that, and then go back and you'll see all the list of the other ones. There's heaps, and they're really good. Another question here that's quite good from Mike Grandlick. Sorry if I've butchered your name. As a cybersecurity university student, what is the best/fastest way to start in the industry? As in, finish uni degree over certs like Sec Plus, CCNA, etc. It's probably already been answered, but still want to know. Do you mean as in to like compare university with certifications, as in what's the fastest way then? Because I mean it's definitely faster to do certifications, but at the same time it's very easy to become over certified and under experienced, which is that's a real thing. To be honest. So yeah, he said yes, that's what he wants to know, if certs versus university. I mean I wasn't very good at university, but I would still recommend it as a way to network with people, to gain the knowledge that they teach you, which is of course good. Yeah, I mean you get a large exposure of a lot of different things. So you're not just like specifically learning about one thing, which is more what a certification is for. Sure, having a CCNA is great. It'll probably help you get a job as a network engineer. A Sec Plus is a pretty wide spectrum certification on lots of things security, and like things like the OSCP is also great to get into pen testing. It's usually one of the ones that is listed on job sites as the minimum requirement for a certification for people to get into a job. Saying that, I would still, I think honestly, as much as I didn't like university, I would still recommend it, to be honest. But what's your thoughts on this one, John?
Oh,
it's a tough one. It gets asked all the time, and
yes,
it's really hard.
I'm trying to think of the cohesive answer that covers all the different renditions of it, because it's asked all the time in different ways.
Yeah.
You don't need either of them or any of them, but they absolutely help, and either one helps at its own minimum, I guess. I don't know.
Very political answer. Yeah, I like it though. It's right though.
And people ask all the time, do I have to get a degree? Do I have to have a certification? No, but it helps. Do I need to get which is better, a certification or a degree? Either one, whichever one that is easier for you to obtain, realistic of your time, your commitments, your financial situation. Something on your resume, something as part of your new education and exposure to this whole scene, that helps you get a foot in the door and starts the conversation when you're looking to break into the industry. Again, not absolutely necessary, but it helps put another foot in the door the same way you could achieve with you're showing your work and you're building out your own education portfolio.
Yeah, for sure. I think
for one that is approachable and realistic and feasible for you. So
absolutely, yeah. And I think just to add to that, following your passion of what you're actually interested in, because there is more than one piece of cybersecurity, and there's many different moving parts of IT as a whole as well. And you can sort of move laterally into different positions. I find once you get your foot in the door. It's getting your foot in the door that I think the question here is about. But I mean, if you find something that you're really interested in, then follow that passion. And if it's something that you continue to be interested in, then that's maybe something you should look further into, either getting certified or learning more about. I guess that's my answer. It's similar to what John said. You don't really need either, but having one or the other or both or whatever it is will definitely, I think, strengthen your profile professionally to be able to move into those positions. Yeah, so it's a kind of political answer. It's a hard question to answer, really, because I don't know your situations. I don't know, finances. I don't know I don't know where you live. I don't know a lot of different things about you to be able to give you an exact plan of how to move forward. And it's such a hard thing to recommend, because I don't want to say the wrong thing and give you bad advice, but yeah, at the same time I want to help. So it's kind of like how should I answer these sort of questions? I think that's pretty much all the good questions here that have come through. Sorry to everyone whose questions have been asked and I didn't answer them. If you do want those questions answered, you're more than welcome to jump into my Discord or John's Discord. I have a questions channel in there where you can ask whatever question it is you like, and the other people in there will potentially answer your question for you, which is fun. Don't ask for tech support, please, because that doesn't go very far, to be honest. You'll just be told to Google it. It's like a TechNet forum, really. So, yeah, it's going to turn out with the same results. But, yeah, thanks, John, for coming onto this live stream. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on. And thanks for helping answer all of these questions. It's been good to get through all of this content, and yeah, it's been a long time coming. I mean, we did have a very quick chat last year when I was doing the Down Under CTF, and I was like half asleep because it was like 4 a.m. and I've been going for hours. I was like, yes, this is very fun. I was literally falling asleep. So I'm very sorry about that. But yeah, thank you for coming on today. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your Sunday.
Absolutely. I know we hadn't had a whole lot of chance to hang out together before, so I mean, it's great to finally get together, and this was a ton of fun. Thank you for letting me come crash the party for a little bit. It's great to be here with everyone.
No worries, man. Thanks for that. And thanks everyone for asking questions and for coming along. Next week I have another one coming up. I can't remember. I'll have a quick look. Oh, I think it's whoa. I accidentally put it over the camera. Let's have a look. Next week is Rio Whitehouse, who is the owner of a managed service provider in the far north of Queensland, which will be a great one to come along to for anyone who's interested in starting their own managed service providing business, focusing on cybersecurity. So yeah, come along for that one. Thank you again, John, for coming in, and thanks everyone for coming along to watch this. It's been great having you all. See ya.